Hello everyone and welcome to the next lesson. So today we are going to focus on building Forex strategies. It's going to be very simple and I will also describe and show you what you can find in Strategy Quant, what to set up and so on. Because we are not just trying to make sure that you mechanically know what to set up and how to set it up, but more importantly, that you understand it all. It's very important to understand what you're doing. We start by simply clicking on the Forex button on the Strategy Quant home screen. This automatically starts the build and we are taken also automatically to the builder. However, the build isn't quite what we want it to be, so I hit the stop button for now. And now I'm going to describe where is what, and we are also going to make some minor adjustments to the Strategy Quant settings. Let's start in general. Here on the left side is the main menu, which has a total of 8 tabs. But today we are only going to be working in the Builder tab. In the Builder, you can also see a few tabs. The first is Progress, where we see an overall summary of the strategy build and the progress of that build. We will go into more detail on this a little bit later. The next tab is Full Settings, where we set up the build. Then there is a Results tab, where we find the results of our strategies. And very last thing you can see at the bottom of the window is the Data Bank tab, where we store our strategies. Now I will describe it in detail, starting with the Full Settings tab, where we set up the build itself and everything around the build. There are quite a lot of options to set up the build. Some are for newbies, but some are for more advanced traders. Today we are going to build a simple strategies, basic strategies for one symbol and one time frame, for GBP/USD and time frame H1. So in the first tab, what to build, we select the first option, Simple Strategy Default. But Strategy Quant does a lot more than that. With this second option, we can build multi-time frame or multi-symbol. This option is, again, for more experienced algo traders. You can build a strategy that takes into account 3 time frames or 3 markets at once. Using the third option, you can build strategies using templates, which we will cover in a bonus lesson. The last option is to improve existing strategies. So if you already have some strategies, you can just improve them. However, like I said, we are going to build a basic, simple strategies, so I will choose the first option. In the table below, additional build config is another setup. In the first option, we can choose whether the strategy will be long only, that is buy only, or short, or both long and short. We always prefer the first option with Forex, so both long and short. You can also choose whether the entries and exits should be symmetrical, that means have identical rules and settings, and we always keep it symmetrical. The strategy should work equally in both directions to be high quality and robust. Here we have the strategy style. We can do multiple types of strategies, but we always use the first one, signal style. And how signals work, we will get to that again later today. But I promise I will tell you what it is about. Otherwise, we have the second option, fuzzy logic, which is again for more advanced traders. Or even we have your old style, which the previous version of Strategy Quant was able to do. And that's only a choice here for backwards compatibility. Next is Build Mode, where we can select Genetic Evolution or Random Generation. We will skip that for now. Anyway, leave the first option selected. Number of conditions periods. We don't want to have complex strategies, so we have a maximum of 3 conditions. And then of course we have the stop loss and profit target settings. We require both for our strategies. In this case, we choose a bit symmetric risk, stop loss of 30 to 80 pips and a much larger potential profit target of 60 to 200 pips. This means that we will be going for bigger profits on average than the risks, which is ideal, and I guess everyone would like that. The next step is genetic options. This is where we set up the build itself. I don't really want to dive into how exactly this works. Let's say you don't need to know exactly how the engine works to drive a car either, and it's similar with this. Genetic options is the first level of artificial intelligence we use to find strategies. And this whole subject would take hours and hours to explain. For us, there is only one thing that is important. At the very bottom here, turn off Show Last Generation Databank option. It's a useless thing that we don't need, and it gets us rid of one data bank. Let's go to the Data tab, where we are already going to make some changes. I recommend setting MetaTrader 4 as the engine. It's probably the best platform for Forex. For the symbol, be very careful here. You need to choose the one with UTC2 with the time shift. The way it works with Forex brokers is that each broker can have a different time. However, nowadays, the huge majority use UTC2, so I recommend choosing this setting. Then your strategies will be compatible with 90% of all other brokers. And as for the data range, leave the start date as it is, the dates from the beginning, and move the end day to 2019, the 6th month, and the last day. We will keep the remaining data for additional out-of-sample testing, for quality testing, which we will cover in later lessons. So we are not going to use the whole data range for now, and we are just gonna leave there 2 years for additional testing. The time frame is, as I mentioned, H1. This will ensure that trades will be 24 hours long on average. That's more or less the best thing, because on the one hand, such strategies don't have long trades, but at the same time, they are not so sensitive to slippages and so on. They are not so sensitive to unpredictable market events. For us, this window here is very important. Test parameters. You know from the previous lesson that there are different test precisions. Select a time frame or open high-low close, where we can only see the minimum, maximum, open and close price from that hourly time frame. Or we have the 1 minute precision, where we see 60 times that data, because we see those 4 values for every minute. 4 values, I mean minimum, maximum, opening and closing price, right? And as we said, it's better to use a more accurate backtest, more precise backtest. But I also mentioned that we've created a special feature that allows us to take advantage of the higher precision and at the same time rapidly speed up the build. The build is, in our experience, about 8 times faster. And that's why, and this might be a little surprising, we are going to set the precision to selected time frame only, and when we get to the cross-check tab, we are going to set up more precise testing in specific cases. We are going to leave the spread, our cost per trade, at 2.5 pips, which is higher than we should normally have, but it's better to have some margin. And set the slippage to 1. We will get to the topic of slippage in the lesson about testing the quality of our strategies. However, simply put, slippage means worse execution of our trades, and it's a good idea to take that into consideration during the building of strategy, because worse execution can definitely happen at some point. In the next table, you can see the data range parts. Here we set the in sample and out of sample. What is this? Well, we can divide the historical data into 2 parts during strategy building. When I click on Show Chart here, you can see the black chart, which is the GBP/USD price for the period that we have chosen. And the red line indicates the volatility of that market using the ATR indicator. And we can break the data down into multiple parts. So, for example, I can put in 2 out of samples, and in the chart now you can see the white parts and the red out of sample parts. When the strategy quant is looking for a setting, when it's building a strategy using artificial intelligence, that genetic evolution, in this case, it would only look for it within those white parts, and only when it found the right strategy, it would look at how it actually worked in the red parts. Whether that strategy is functional outside the sample of data on which he was looking or it was looking for and creating that strategy, that algorithm. That's kind of a basic test of robustness, and we used out of sample quite extensively, but we came to the conclusion that it wasn't so necessary for Forex. That's why we don't use out of samples here in that basic build. Instead, we are keeping 2 years of data on which we will do an additional test, which we will do in an upcoming lesson, like I already mentioned. The next step is trading options. Here we can choose from a wide range of settings. For example, exit at end of day to close the position at 11 p.m. every day, which in case of time frame H1 doesn't make sense. We will have to trade lower time frames to use this option. But what we enabled is exit on Friday. So every Friday at 8:40 p.m. our position will be automatically closed. This makes sense primarily because when something negative happens, it really typically happens on the weekend. Like in 2013, when Cyprus went bankrupt, it was announced on the weekend, and the Euro-USD currency pair opened with a huge gap on Forex. It was about 200 pips. That's something that could make you 200 pips more profit, but also 200 pips more loss. But by not holding positions over the weekend, you can avoid these unpredictable market events. That's why we recommend closing positions on Friday. Then you can also set a limit time range that you will only trade from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., for example, or you can set a maximum number of trades per day and so on. But again, these are settings for more advanced traders, let's say. So let's move on. And here we have building blocks, a very interesting tab for us. It's organized into several sections: order types, exit types, signals, indicators, and stop limit entry blocks. And as I promised, I will tell you how the signals work at first. As you can see, there were already some indicators chosen like defaultly in here. It was caused by the fact that we chose the Forex build on the home screen. If you remember, that was our first step. So leave them set as they are, because the most important ones are just automatically selected. And notice one thing: Bollinger Bands, which is a fairly well-known indicator, does not have only 2 states, lower or higher. Strategy Quant can look at those indicators in lots of different ways just by using those signals. In general, not just for the Bollinger Bands, Strategy Quant can evaluate not just that the value is higher or lower, but also how the indicator itself is behaving, whether it is rising, falling, and so on, which of course offers many more options, making analysis and trading more flexible. And that's great. That's why we want to work with signals. Then we have indicators where there are no predefined ones because we work with those signals. And then we have stop limit entry blocks, which are the levels where you place entry orders. where we have, for example, daily close, daily open, daily high, daily low. That's kind of classic that we all know. Now let's take a look at the order types, where we, in this case, use enter at stop, which are the strategies that work best. And at exit, we use profit target and stop loss, plus trailing stop and exit after bars, meaning that the trade is closed after 24 candles. The next tab is ATM, or Advanced Trading Management, which I also mentioned in the previous lesson. It's money management, for example, with staggered position closures and so on, but we will skip that for now as well. Let's move to the Money Management tab, where we will set the position size. For simplicity's sake, I will recommend that you leave it set to 0.1 lots. And before we get to the cross-checks tab, I'd like to look at the ranking tab first, because that's the one that's closely related to cross-checks. In ranking, we set what the strategies must meet in order to be saved in our data bank. Leave the custom filters as they are. We have 3 basic indicators here that sufficiently tell us about the quality of our strategy. Average trades per month must be greater than 2, so at least 2 trades per month. You don't have to worry about it being too little, because later on you will usually be trading a portfolio where you will have maybe 20 strategies, so there will be a lot more trades in the end. But we want better quality strategies than ones that really trade a lot. Profit factor is 1.3. The profit factor tells us how stable the profitability of strategy is. And then we have the return drawdown ratio set to 4. And this indicator tells us how many dollars the strategy should earn for every risked dollar. That is the return on our investment. We set it to 4, but it's usually much higher. You will see that for yourself during the build and the results. The other parts of this tab don't interest us too much, except for maximum top strategies to store, where you set the maximum number of strategies you want to have in your data bank. I recommend setting it to 1000 unless you have a really powerful computer, like one with 64 gigabytes of RAM. Also, keep the data bank is full setting. This means that when the maximum capacity is reached, the build will stop. You can actually choose multiple methods here. Never means that the build would never shut down. New strategies will be built over and over again. And if strategic one finds a strategy that is better than the worst strategy already in the data bank, it will replace it. But when we only have a simple backtest with no quality test, we don't know how good the strategy is, and all we get is just a nice picture at most. So it doesn't make sense to build strategies this way. Then we choose the totally option, or we can choose it, where a specified number of strategies will be generated, or we have the third option, data bank is full. Of course, there is the difference between the last 2 options, because not every strategy that is generated and meets the conditions we set will be stored, because it may happen that the strategy will be very similar to a strategy that is already in the data bank. And if it is very similar to it, it will not be saved. So we choose data bank is full, which means that the moment there are 1000 strategies in the data bank, the generating will be switched off and no new strategies will be built. Now let's finally look at the cross-check tab, where we turn off the backtest on additional market option. We will not work with that now, but instead we will leave the higher backtest precision option on. Here I'm getting to what I promised, because in the data tab we left selected time frame, and now in the cross-checks tab we will work with the higher precision. We have found out one thing through tests. When we tested the strategies on 1 minute precision set right in the build, the results were the same or worse as with selected time frame precision. So we can afford to build strategies using selected time frame during setting the build, and only these strategies that meet these conditions that we set in ranking, we send them here and test them with 1 minute precision. Here we set the same spread like we said before, and it was 2.5 pips. And this way we save a huge amount of time, because 99% of the strategies that strategy 1 finds, because some level of randomness enters the process, don't meet those conditions in ranking. And we don't have to waste time on any more precise testing. The 1% that we are interested in, we test really precisely using that 1 minute precision. We will add the same conditions to the filter, where there are already some preset values, but I will delete those. And we have to add the same conditions we set in ranking. So profit factor at least 1.3, return drawdown ratio at least 4, and average trades per month at least 2. Now double click on each condition, and the important thing here is to switch from main data to higher backtest precision. In the second row, I choose where I'm taking the data from, whether from in sample, out of sample, or the whole range. But as you know, we currently have the whole in sample range, so it doesn't matter if I choose in sample or full range. Now we can finally move to the main tab Progress and click on Start. Please expect that it will take a while to get the generating going, but the speed will gradually increase. If you have an average computer like me, it is a matter of a few hours before you have strategies generated in the data bank. However, the first strategies should start appearing after a few minutes. If it takes you a really long time to generate anything, check your settings carefully to see if there is a bug somewhere. This really happens to me sometimes, really, that I overlook something or set something up wrong. In this window, you can see the process of strategy building. For example, if you click on Rejected, you will see the reasons why the strategies were rejected. We have other data here as well, strategies per hour, running time so far, time per accepted strategies, and so on. And there is one last thing I want to show you. If strategy 1 is generating strategies at a reasonable rate for you, I recommend that you save your strategies and create kind of packages of them. Saving is very simple. I'm going to turn off generating right now so I can show you that on already generated strategies. So we have generated strategies here, and to select them all, we just need to check this checkbox, then click on Save, save to SQ format, and then just choose where you want to save them. So click on Browse, select for example the strategies folder, in which I create a new folder called GBPUSDH1, like the first 1,000 strategies, and then I click on Select. Then we will fill in the file name, where we will fill in, for example, the prefix GBPUSD, and here H1. This is absolutely up to you. And click on Save. This saves all these strategies to my computer. And where can I find them again? I open my Strategy 1 folder, I select the User folder, Strategies folder, and there you can see the saved strategies. You can make countless packages of strategies this way, which you will then test for quality in the following lessons. And that's all from me at the moment. Your job now, your homework is to build strategies. And don't be afraid to build a lot of them. we will eliminate a lot of strategies in the subsequent robustness testing because not all of them will meet our quality requirements, of course. And we will get rid of half the strategies in one test because we are looking for quality and not quantity. In the next lesson, you will see the setup for futures, build strategies as you like for Forex futures or both, it's up to you. So I thank you very much for your attention. And again, I'd like to remind you that we are here for you. So if you have any questions or any problems, let us know and we will be happy to help and advise you. So have a great day and see you tomorrow.